By far, one of the most important things, and I talk about a lot of important things on my channel, right? I make a lot of claims. I'm like, this is how we change the world. This is an important action step toward the truth. And I talk a lot about action because a lot of people kind of don't talk about action. A lot of content creators may just want to create content for the clickbait and for the daily dose of news. It's kind of fun looking at politics and the sports games and seeing how many clicks we can get. I'm not in it for any of that, right? I try to make that intent clear. But I'm not asking for you to listen to me either, or even on that. I'm asking for you to simply listen to yourself. I'm asking for you to take control of your own life, to not listen to me, to not listen to anybody, to not even use the same topics, the same presentations, the same methods of teaching, the same anything. I want you to look into yourself, your own environment, the world around you, nature, right? I say nature is the answer. How many people actually look at that phrase and actually question what I mean by when I say that? Most people just think it's some sort of slogan I use or brand name. No, it isn't. I mean it when I use it. And I don't think enough people look at the deeper meaning behind why I use it. Right? I can talk about slavery as being the root thing that we have to look at to understand what freedom is, how we achieve our freedom. We need to define what slavery is. We need to know what it is because we are enslaved as a human species. We cannot deny that, right? But what's even deeper than freedom or slavery or statism, right, is nature. If you don't have a nature to reason, to think to begin with, it's all out of the equation. If you don't have a nature to simply live, to breathe, to do your daily living, everything's out the window with it. And that's why, I made videos talking about the real job, which is for the truth, not for, your everyday things, and not necessarily being attached to man-made things or material things. We have a destiny in this world, right? We have a true will that we have to follow, and we have to vigorously uphold it. That is upholding the law. That is being the natural law enforcement, is finding the truth and trying to determine it, but not dictating it upon others or saying you have to follow this particular way of viewing the truth, because the truth is inside everybody and everybody shares it. If the truth is universal and present and objective as it is, then everybody can understand it. Everybody has it. It's with them. It's in the blueprint of life. It's ingrained, a tapestry, a genetics code. I mean, just even looking at the genetics of the body shows us an objective truth because there is an intention behind it, right? And you may even refer to teleology, etc. But there's a purpose, right? That's telos. And everything seeks ultimately its purpose, as Aristotle would say, but you don't have to even take that perspective. You can see that everything, even if you think it's all random, whatever, still happens for a reason. And those reasons can be understood. We can ask the why and understand. But when there's things happening in the world we don't know why, we're likely self-responsible to one way or another. We may want to point the fingers and say, this person did it, this person did it. Let's look at this topic, look at that topic. No, we still have some sort of responsibility ourselves, right? And we still have to recognize that we are in this world. We're not just listening to independent media, right? We're not just consuming information. There's something that we have to do about it. And there's still a perspective that we have to share ourselves. Somebody can say, oh, do this action, do that action, but they're not in your environment. They're not you. And you have a special expertise, even if you think you don't. You have a different perspective because you lived a different life. You have different experiences. So how much do you tap into that? That's up to you. How much you look into the truth, that's up to you. How much you do for the truth, that's up to you. See, everything is up to you. And really, you can make anything possible. I'm not here to be like a motivation speaker or to say, well, you can't achieve anything. But that's how much power an individual has, if they recognize their power, that is, first. Because a lot of people just first don't recognize their power. They either overestimate it, say, I can be in charge of everything, I could be in the place of nature, or they underestimate themselves. They say, well, I can't do this, or other people have done it already, right? But where's the balance? Where's the rootedness, the groundedness to say, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be, right? Or some sort of direction. Do you think a business, right, is not supposed to be some sort of goal-oriented, here's our target market? How do you think that business is going to work out? You think that business is going to be successful? They might, by chance, but how long is that going to last then? They need to have some sort of goals. They need to have some sort of structure, right? And Same thing when we want the truth. There has to be some sort of action steps within it. There needs to be people of all different kinds doing all different types of pursuits to achieve the same thing. And then there's going to have to be accountability between these different groups and criticisms. That's natural. That's how you achieve change. You have to have difference. But when people are doing the same things, that's not difference. That's not innovation. That's not thinking critically, even though everybody claims that they're thinking critically. See, we live in a world where independent media is often just as much as at fault as the mainstream media for these very same reasons. See, people will follow it, okay, they're truth seekers, but what are they doing? They're still consuming. Are they consuming, or are they also producing content themselves? That's real independent media. It is not just, here's a new form of media to consume. You're doing the same thing with the mainstream media, you're just watching independent media. No. It's, let's all be the change. Let's all produce media together. I'll help you. Like I create videos recently talking about how we need to collaborate. That's super important. But how much of independent media is going to experiment with what they do and ask people to collaborate, actively reaching out and trying to make a difference, even in places where they think might not work out, but because of their influence, they know that, well, maybe we can do a little this here and this here. We can try exploring new ideas. You know, just a littlest bit of effort. But do we see that in independent media? Or do people rather just want to keep producing their clickbait content to try to get people still watching the same stuff? And I've had many talks about this to many people. And, you know, there's a video I'm going to do called Don't Become the Unnatural Truth Seeker, because this has a lot to do with it. And part of that is listening to yourself, because that's natural. In order to learn from the world, it's natural to seek in information through your own reason, and not take everything all through technology and this large dose of technology. See, technology is this aggregation of events. It's not that technology within itself is unnatural. Okay, it could provide many natural effects, but it is a very great aggregation. You know, it's allowing me to speak to you across the world at any time. That's powerful, right? And it can last forever. That's a destiny. That's something that if you speak the truth and nobody else is speaking it, then that could be a very powerful thing later on if people discover it, right? And as long as it's there, and as long as you keep persisting, and as long as you meet people and they share the word and they share the world, eventually it gets to the world. The word gets to the world. So you don't have to live in nature, right? All you have to do is use your nature. This is the big distinction. This is how you listen to yourself, okay? I'm not asking for you, when I say nature is the answer, to go outside and start licking a tree and hugging a tree and go, you know, grow long hair like me or whatever you think is natural. I'm not asking for you to conform to anything. I'm asking you to listen to your nature. I think you already know what is natural, and you simply just need the motivation to do it, or the reformation to do it. A lot of people go about in their life until they have some sort of reformation or energy that brings them toward what they actually desire. They want to do it, but something is holding them back. And oftentimes it is those things that are just holding us back from reality, because reality is already present. Things can only block us from that reality, or illusions can only be created to prevent us from embracing that reality with open arms, right? And how open are we to that reality if we're constantly consuming our information through mediums, whether it be independent media or mainstream media? So again, the main message in this video is to listen to yourself. Listen to your heart, listen to your brain, listen to every part of yourself, your higher will, your instincts, and don't ignore a single part of it, because that's all part of your nature. To ignore one part of it is to cause an extreme, an imbalance, right, of the yin and the yang. See it however you wish, but ultimately that's all within yourself. And see how quickly you might lose yourself when you start focusing on other people. Maybe you're helping other people too much. Maybe you're doing too many other things that you lose focus of yourself, right? And you can become too selfless, or it could be too selfish. Either or, right? And being too selfish, is that really listening to yourself? Is it? Because if you're listening to yourself, then you understand your own ego, where it is, where you're putting yourself, how you're expressing yourself. That's very different, isn't it? I mean, there's the self, which is ego, but then there's yourself, saying that this is who I am. And then there's listen to yourself, listening. That requires patience, presence, right? And I say it in my second book, Sapientia Naturae, which is the wisdom of nature, this great need for simplicity. But that simplicity is because nature is pretty simplistic. It's man who tends to complicate everything, and we can complicate everything. It's not a bad thing. We can look at all the details. But the point is there's also a really simple thing, which is called listening to yourself, rather than through me or through a bunch of other people. And I'm asking you to do something really simple, which sounds kind of like, well, geez, I already know that. Geez, I mean, this is kind of common sense. But once in a while, we need a reminder. Because we pass these things on a day-to-day basis, the most important things in life, love, family, etc. These things are so important that we do lose touch with that, especially in an unnatural world so fast-paced and wrapping ourselves into so many different ideologies. Do we realize what attachment is doing, what desire is doing, that we keep wanting more and more and never take a step back to listen and say, what is it that we actually need? That is listening to ourselves. Very important. Thank you very much for watching. This is Corey Eden Engelot. Nature is the answer.